All right, let's get down to business. I'm joined now in a live studio here in Lagos by the Secretary of the Labour Party in Lagos, Comrade Femi. Did I get that?
Organizing Secretary.
The Organizing Secretary of the Labour Party in Lagos, Comrade Femi Onofe. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
State of the nation ahead the 2015 general elections, but I'd love to start with some newspaper stories. Quite interesting. We talked about where politicians get the crowd from. APC does campaign. You see an amazing crowd there. PDP comes around. Even Labour Party, and I mean, how come these crowds do not eventually tell on election day?
I wanted to dodge it, but the truth be told, anybody that takes those crowds to mean anything doesn't have the least understanding of the Nigerian politics. The truth is, everybody there is induced by one offer or the other. Some go there to have a glimpse of the musical superstar who is on the podium. Some go there for 1,000, 2,000 naira that they are promised. Some go there for a bowl of rice and a bottle of water. I mean, that's the extent to which the political class has ridiculed the Nigerian people. We've been reduced to mere commodities that politicians can buy for rallies. And oftentimes, let people exit the rally ground and ask them what actually transpired at the rally. They have no inkling, no idea. And because they are not there to listen to the people talking. And it has no role in the electoral outcomes. That's the reality of it. And so I see those images, and even when I see some on television, I actually laugh. Because it tells how shamelessly the leadership has reduced the followership. Our humanity has been taken away.
Is it a function of the leadership or the position we have put ourselves also as followers?
You see, when a leadership is not able to generate and create the kind of wealth that it ought to, and oversee an effective distribution of that wealth, you create a large community of poverty. And the poor will react in a poor mentality. People are so bottled up in their poverty that whatever they offer, they rush at it. And for the political class, that's good. Because it means every time they want the rally, people will come for 1,000 naira and fill the place up. And then during elections, that's exactly what they do too. On the eve of any election, I challenge anybody in Lagos State. On the eve of every election, they go from house to house, especially in Surulere, to distribute money. They distribute food, they distribute food items. On the eve of every election, I challenge anybody in Lagos, including the sitting governor. And I will give names of those who do distributions. That's the level to which the Nigerian has been reduced. We are treated as if we have no ideas, we have no capacity to think. Because poverty has taken over the land.
But we've also had some political parties even state clearly that if they give you money on the eve of election, it's your money, collect it, but just vote your conscience.
You see what?
But how realistic do you think it is that somebody would come to me now and give me 10,000 naira to vote? And you think that I won't collect?
You're considered a minority in the Nigerian population because you can think, you've been through school. And that's one of the reasons to the political class.
No, maybe you didn't even get me. I'm saying that if someone approaches me with 10,000 naira now, and then I have needs, financial needs.
Yes, you will take the 10,000 naira,
Come on, do you think that an average Nigerian would not take the money first before thinking twice?
That's what I said. You see, the truth is, the needs are overwhelming. And so every money that comes the way, he will be, even the man who is dressed in suit sitting at the back of his car will take 10,000 naira, whatever the driver has to say. And oftentimes, there's something that I want people to understand, because each time you accept an offer for a purpose, it's actually a covenant. We may not give serious interpretations to it, but there are people who are saying, I've collected money from this person. How do I betray this commitment? But there are those who really don't care. And I challenge anybody. On election days, let's take a drive around Lagos. See people play football on the street. You see people who actually grumble that they are not able to leave homes. And those who go to the polling unit on election days are usually induced. I've been a field officer in the electoral process in this country. So I can speak without hesitation on the electoral processes in Ondo State. I can speak about Lagos because I've been involved in those two instances. I can speak for Osun because I was also involved. I was on ground. I can speak for Anambra State. because I was also on ground.
It has even been institutionalized now because we hear in Ekiti what they have termed the stomach infrastructure. How much impact do you think this would have on the 2015 general election?
I actually would congratulate Ayofa for having the courage to talk about it in the open. There is no politician in this country that can excuse himself of that conduct. But people do all kinds of distributions on election during the electionary period. And so if Ayofa gave it a name, it's not to say that that doesn't happen everywhere else. You know, but that he has had the courage to talk about it in the open, I think he should even be congratulated. But that's to typify the economic reality of the Nigerian environment. The thing is, I shudder at the things that the politicians are doing to this country, because the ultimate victims of all of this that is playing out is the political class.
But all of this, are you saying that your party, the Labour Party, is exempted?
I have not. You see, I never exonerated. I said I was a field participant in the Ondo State election. I was a field participant in the Anambra State election. I was involved in the Osun State election. I am here in Lagos. And in every election in Lagos State, I've been a participant. And I can say categorically that there's no political party that can exonerate itself, including the Labour Party.
So what is your own position and the position of your party? Because some have said that collect the money, but vote your conscience. What do you call it now? Primary elections are underway. They also say that the money bags have a lot of role to play in inducing delegates as regards who to vote for.
Well, to start with, you can't even get nomination forms if you don't have so much money. So you need the money back to fund you. That's where it starts from. And then for you to get the delegates, because again, when the congresses are being conducted, those who have money induce their delegates, you know, and those are the people who become the delegates at the other primaries and all of that. So that's how it is done. And I will say it without hesitation that the political process in this country is warped. It's founded on so much corruption, so much misuse of power and of money. And I sincerely pray that the day will come when the average Nigerian will have an understanding of the power that he holds in his hands. Because the electorate, until they come to terms with the power of their vote, will continue to abuse it.
Okay. Let's quickly touch on the health of internal democracy that we've experienced thus far in some of the Nigerian political parties. We've seen crisis at the world congresses and PDP, APC. Now, your own party took it to another level with what they have now described as the collapse of the headquarters of the Labour Party nationally. We saw the governor decamp and take all the structures. As it is now, all the members of the House of Assembly, I believe, have also decamped to the PDP. And then we now have different factions. Why Dan Nwaya we saying that we will support Mr. President for a second term? Then we hear other parties saying, no, it's not going to happen. How do you place all of these?
Well, let me put on record that the Labour Party has no factions. Yeah, that you have criminals who clone themselves into the Labour Party and who use the name of the Labour Party to perpetrate all kinds of atrocities does not mean that the party is factionalized. And I say to anybody on good authority, Mimiko defected to the PDP, preceding the conventional, or the Kangaroo Convention at Akure. And I challenge the former national chairman, because if I were in his shoes, the first thing I would do is call an emergency neck to say, hey, look, this is the reality. It doesn't make any sense to insist on taking the convention to the house of a man who has gone to another political party. And the man said in public that he was the one who had given monies for the convention to take place in Akure. And I said before, I think the last time I was here, I challenged him. I said the people of Ondo State should ask their governor if that is the essence to which their resources should be deployed. But Daniel Nwaya proceeded. And it's slapping because I challenged even the so-called present national chairman. I challenge him to a public debate on any issue that concerns the Labour Party.
But as it is now, Ondo State seems to be the only state that your party has a governor, and then many have even described it as the state that has the highest number of Labour Party candidates in power.
Sorry, I'm sorry to butt in. I want to differ, because yes, Mimiko became the governor of Ondo State on the platform of the Labour Party. But that's not to say that everybody in Ondo State was in the Labour Party. Yes, the sentiment for Labour Party grew to a very high level. And you see, it's been ongoing for a while.
But you agree with me that politically, that's the headquarters of your party?
No, it isn't. It isn't. You see, for very terrible reasons. For a lot of people, you see, there's something about Nigerian politics. People gravitate towards wherever it is they collect money. And since that is where they had the only state governor who could award contracts, who could do things, you know, who could distribute what they call, okay, let me be a little soft, who could distribute goodwill, then everybody was, you know, looking at Akure as headquarters. I never had any reason to meet with the governor for anything. I don't need to patronize him. For all I care, he was a governor for Ondo State. Yes, he won on the platform, but his primary constituency was Ondo State.
Do you agree that Mimiko's defection dealt a great blow to the Labour Party?
If the Labour Party we want to talk about is the Labour Party that Mimiko presided over, because I have told anybody who cares to know, Mimiko was not an asset to the Labour Party. Mimiko was actually a liability to the Labour Party.
How do you mean?
I'll start with this. You see, when you build a political system, and then you center it and revolve it around somebody, because why are people challenging certain individuals as other political parties? When you create godfathers, because Mimiko projected himself as the sole owner of the Labour Party, and he recruited people like Danny Nwoyawu as his lieutenants to concentrate the party around himself. But you see, the Labour Party has an history.
Well, without Mimiko, would Labour Party have won the
Labour Party existed.
In
no,
Ondo
Labour Party
State?
didn't need to. You see, I'm not the politician who believes you must win an election at all cost. I believe in a politics that has morality as the primary content. For a lot of politicians, it's a dare-do affair. We must get this, we must get it done, and it must be done now. And that's why we are where we are. I believe a political party should be allowed to grow organically, achieve what it ought to achieve, focus on this objective. Today, it is difficult to tell between Mimiko's Labour Party and the PDP.
But I'm sure you didn't have this problem with Mimiko while he was still with your party.
Oh yes, we always had the problem. Oh yes, we always had the problem. But you see, it could be suppressed. And why could it be suppressed? Because the fellows who were running the Mimiko show were the ones who were at the helms of the affairs in the Labour Party. And so, whatever they said was the public opinion.
In the last election, your party supported the PDP, supported Mr. President.
Supported Mr. President, not the PDP.
There are also opinions that the Labour Party is still in the same path in 2015.
Yeah, but even in 2011, I can also tell you what happened. Danny Nwoyawu came to the media to say the members of the National Working Committee endorsed President Goodluck Jonathan to contest the presidency. And may I remind you, there were people who were expressing reservations about that comment. In 2014, he's even gone 1 mile ahead. Even before President Jonathan collected the nomination form, Danny Nwoyawu had already adopted him as a presidential candidate. Whereas he had no say in the PDP. The PDP had not said that President Goodluck Jonathan was going to be their candidate. But Danny Nwoyawu already had gone to the media to say that the Labour Party, of his own idea and conception, was endorsing the president.
But the fact that the Labour Party did not compete in 2011, that already told the story. Are you going to be competing in the presidential election in 2015?
In 2015, as I sit here, I sit as an organizing secretary of the Labour Party in Lagos State. I can hardly influence what they do at Abuja. I can hardly influence it. But, you know, I'm encouraged by the fact that the NLC and the TUC have indicated interest in refocusing and redirecting the party. And if that happens, I would not be surprised. Because for me, in politics, 24 hours is a long time. It's matter of fact, it's an age.
Okay.
So many things can happen in 24 hours. So I would not be surprised if we have a presidential candidate for 2015. I won't be surprised. I won't be taken aback at all. Because there are people who have been inside the Labour Party who have never been comfortable with all of this. The style. I do not want to use derogatory words. The manner the affairs of the party was conducted, I wasn't comfortable. But you see, I've always had this extra burden of having to defend the party wherever I go to. And let me put this succinctly, so that I can put this permanently to the better ground. Is that if I set out on the journey from here to Akure, my intention is to get to Akure. But in between here and Akure, it is not in my powers to determine what happens. The Labour Party had an objective. was set up for a principle, was set up for a goal. But in between, when it took off and where we are, suffered certain mishaps.
But have you also been able to perceive your party the way it is as an alternative for personal gains of certain politicians? Because it happened in Ondo that a certain politician could not get a ticket, and then it comes. It happened in Ekiti. Ayofayoshi also, I believe, contested for the Senate thereabout at a particular year under the platform of the Labour Party. Yeah. Why is it that your party has assumed that position of always being ready to take failures from the other big parties?
I'll tell you. The Nigerian was concept of the Labour Party has again positioned itself in 2015 to receive fallouts from every political party. And that's why the party is undergoing a rebirth.
Okay.
And I do believe that the emerging Labour Party will be the party that will stand by itself and stand for its principles. Because today it's almost impossible. The party has clear-cut objectives. We have a distinct manifesto, but nobody talks about the Labour Party manifesto anymore.
Let's quickly touch on other issues now so that we don't...
Yeah, okay.
I believe I got carried away with the Labour Party issue. But then, how does the new developments of crises across the board, we've seen it in PDP, in APC, it's obvious in your party, how do you think all of this would impact on the 2015, the health, the credibility of the 2015 general elections?
I'm a Nigerian who has been in this country for a very long time, so I don't tie my destiny and my fate to time frame. 2015 will come and it will go. Do you understand? 2015 will come and it will go. But in between now and 2015, Nigerians must begin to conceptualize the kind of Nigeria they want to have. If we see 2015 as a little too close, too short, 2019 is just by the corner. I do not believe that 2015 is, but I do believe that Nigeria is passing through a rebirth. 2015 affords an opportunity for the rebirth of Nigeria. The Labour Party is passing through rebirth. The PDP too, there are people in PDP who are also dissatisfied with what is going on in the PDP. There are people in the APC who are tired of what is going on in the APC. And so Nigeria is passing through a rebirth. And I believe that over time, if we keep the momentum, Nigeria is going to get there. It's not for anybody to worry that this crisis or this seeming crisis are everywhere. No, it's for Nigerians to be encouraged, knowing that even within the political parties, there are fellows who believe that these things can be done better and should be done better. And there are people who believe that this country is beyond serving the interest of an individual or a group of individuals, but rather our commonwealth is our collective commonwealth. And so we have a stake in this country. This country does not belong to Mr. President. It does not belong to the governors. It belongs to every one of us. It doesn't belong to the Senate. It doesn't belong to the House of Reps. Tambuwa, this is not his property. David Mark doesn't own Nigeria. And so Nigerians must begin to think and see this country as belonging to all of us. We must claim ownership of this country. And we must claim ownership of the political structures. We must claim ownership of the political parties. And walk away from the culture we have had.
As we count down to 2015, many have started talking about rating the performance of INEC thus far. We had a rec in the studio yesterday, and the reaction from the other side of the phone was clear that Nigerians are not quite satisfied with what INEC has done thus far. What's your position on that?
Why do Nigerians always wait for elections to approach before they approach the INEC and confront the INEC on issues? The INEC has been with us. The process for continued voter registration has always been with us. They came up with the PVC project. For many of us, it's a failed project ab initio. But they have come up with arguments and pretenses and excuses. I have my permanent voter's card. Yeah, a lot of people don't have it. But that's not...
Hold it for a minute. Let's take this call. Good morning, Prince. Good morning, Prince. Prince, if you can hear me, go ahead with a contribution.
Okay, listen, good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
And the Labour Party, and good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Hello.
Good morning, go ahead.
Okay, even the same Israel Oba from Anambra State, still you use Labour Party as a
launching
the
pad.
opportunity in order to use the platform, and suddenly he jump back to another party. What is the really activities of Labour Party? Is it to make a provision whereby other people cannot use them as a vehicle that will not take them to their destination once they get there, then jump away? Or is there a party that really have a focus to win re-election in Nigeria? So that's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, Prince. Prince is automatically taking us back to the Labour Party issue that I'm trying to move away from. But many are even suggesting that Nigeria is running a two-party system.
Nigeria is not running a two-party state. It's not. It's a multi-party democracy, whether we like it or not. And that's why I said Nigeria is evolving. You see, when Ife Ubah became the governorship candidate of the Labour Party, I was the saddest person. And when he stood up on the podium to defend his candidature of the Labour Party, I was most ashamed of myself. And unfortunately for me, I was in the company of my friends. And the first thing that came out of his mind was that the Labour Party, his idea of Labour Party was not interested in free education. So the man never saw a copy of the manifesto. He never understood what the Labour Party was about. And yet he was a governorship. And so that's part of the madness that I see has taken over the polity. It's not just the Labour Party. The Labour Party's case sticks out like a sore thumb because the Labour Party represents a constituency that is courageous enough to ask questions that should ask. What I say, as an officer of the Labour Party, an officer of the PDP dare not say. An officer of the APC dare not say. But I say that because of the constituency I'm coming from. A trade unionist, an activist, not politician. I can't be bottled. I can't be locked in a corner. And that's the kind of people that populate the Labour Party. Daniel Nwayu had this way for so long as he was able to access support from Akure. But now that has evaporated, we want to look him in the face and ask him to do the same thing in 2015.
You sound like you're not even. Okay, let me take Usman's call. Good morning, Usman.
Hello, good morning.
Welcome to Call Digest Friday.
Hello.
Good morning. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Hello, good morning.
I can hear you loud and clear, Usman.
Okay. Please, I have a question for the Labour Secretary that is there. My questions are, please, let me just ask you some questions. Why is it that every Labour in the position we have in this very country, I'm a public civil servant, of course, but we don't even know the activities of our party, and we contribute a lot of money for our party. And whenever any of our chairman, the party chairman has a decision to make, he will only stand up alone and make his own decisions. He doesn't even consult all the rest of the Labour members to know what is happening to our party. Does that mean that we don't have manifestos? Does that mean we are in front of CBT? Please, answer this very question, please.
Thank you for calling Usman from Kaduna. Usman sounds like a member of your party.
Yeah, interestingly, I'm also a product of the Nigerian Civil Service Union. So I have a full understanding of his frustration. From the very moment, in short, for 10 years, Daniel Nwayu ran the Labour Party like a private estate. And for the first time, the NLC and the TUC said, come, let's sit down. We want to look at the affairs of the Labour Party. And then he went on television, he went on radio, he went on newspaper, and insulted the NSC and the TUC and said he had no business, that the party must be separated from the Congress. But whereas the party derived its life from the Congress. And so no matter how strong a tenant gets, he cannot walk his landlord out of his home. And so somebody needs to examine somebody's head somewhere.
But does it not even baffle you that over the years we've not seen that cooperation between trade unions, the NLC, the TUC, not until recently, with the Labour Party?
I do not say so. Because on the structure of the Labour Party, over the years, you have always had the representation of the trade union movement in the structure.
But when it comes to election, we've always seen NLC, TUC side other political parties apart from the Labour Party.
That's what I'm saying. That's because the leadership never consulted with the trade union movement. You see, the Labour House is right there in Abuja. The National Secretariat of the Labour Party is right there in Abuja. And how long does it take to drive across city and have a consultation and confer with the leadership of and say, this is what we want to do. How do we do this together? But somebody saw this as, as his personal harvest.
It's all right. Let me just quickly take you back to our discussion as regards PVC distribution, continuous voter registration, and all of that. The resident electoral commissioner that was with us yesterday said that this idea that distribution is just for 3 days is wrong, that the distribution actually started May this year. What role do you think, would you agree with me that political parties have failed in their responsibility of informing the electorate at this time?
I would want to align myself with that position that the political parties have not done enough in the area of voter education, because the processes for the collection of the PVC has been on. And like I said, it's a continuous. That the exercises are pulled up the street doesn't mean that the offices of the INEC in each locality is not functional. But you see, the parties are not they don't want even the electorate to know anything. And it's deliberate. The political class believes that the easiest way to ride to power is to ride on the ignorance of the people. And so why educate them? Because when you give them education, and that's what is the biggest challenge. Let me tell you something.
Who now loses after all if members of your party are not able to register or get their PVC? Just before you answer that, let's take this call from Quadri. Good morning, Quadri. Good morning, Quadri. Are you there?
Hello. Yes, I'm there.
Please go ahead with your contribution.
I'm there. Hello?
Well, with you, go ahead, Quadri, with the contribution.
Okay, I want to thank Court Digest for the wonderful work you are doing by bringing some personality on the air. Concerning this 2015 election, which we are deliberating on, I'm not quite sure that some of our personalities are aware of what is going on in Nigeria, especially those that are employed by government who is still interested in the next election are working for the government, especially what we saw IG did in few days back now. And we are talking of another INEC who is employed by the same government who is interested in the election. Are we not looking at the INEC also who is going to protect their job by working for the government, because everybody is working for their family?
Is it there? I'm afraid we lost that. But thank you for your contribution. You want to react quickly to that?
Well, you can't get people from other space to man those institutions. And I have my take. I have my take on the reaction of the police. I have my take. Matter of fact, by the actions of the IGP, I hold him in very high esteem now. In short, he has elevated himself in my own assessment. I doff my hat for him. I celebrate him as a unique and a respectable police officer. And if you want me to, I'll roll out my reasons. Let me tell you something. The lawyers won't like this, but I'll say it. Who enforces the law in this country? It's the police. And are you telling me when the policeman sees a robber robbing, he has to go to court first for court to pronounce whether the robber is guilty of committing an offense or not? Should he not rein in the robber first before he goes to the court?
Who's the robber? Who's the policeman?
I'll ask you.
In this case.
What does the Constitution say about a speaker of the House, a member of the House, defecting from his political party to another party where there is no crisis in this party, because there's no crisis in the PDP as we speak? So Tambuwal knew what the implication of his actions were.
Did he note that Tambuwal, while he was defecting, did not say that I am defecting to APC? He actually said, this is to announce my membership of the APC. In his own position, there was obviously a factionization of the PDP way back in 2013. You recall the Baraje group?
Which have meted into the APC.
Who meted into the APC?
So, which is to say, as of today, there's no crisis in the PDP because those people are now in the APC. That settles that. And if he was announcing a membership of a new political party, it's an automatic indication that he has left his old house to a new house. And what the Constitution expects of him is that he should vacate his office because it must become vacant by the law. And the person who enforces the law is the IGP. And he has enforced the law by saying, I refuse to recognize you. And the lawyers are going about town making the noise. Well, is their harvest time.
So
because the
you don't
lawyers
see anything wrong in the role of the police?
Matter of fact,
at this time.
let me tell you something. Matter of fact, I think we have elevated people beyond their humanity. Tambuwa is still a human being. Is he not Alhaji Aminu Tambuwa? What else should he have been called? Why do we celebrate titles so much?
It's all right. I have to wrap up this segment now. Let me just have your final comments on all of this. What role, really, do you think that the electorate needs to play at this crucial time as we count down to the 2015 elections?
First and foremost, the political parties have not been fair to the electorate. The state has not been fair to the electorate. The electoral umpires have not been fair to the electorate. And so you have a concentration of very ignorant, illiterate electorate who need to be educated.
Okay.
And then they are being thrown to making decisions in 2015. And many of them are ill-equipped to make those decisions. And then if you have that on your hands, the primary responsibility, I think what the party should be doing right now is voter education.
Okay.
But most of the time is spent on primaries, on insult, throwing insults, on saying terrible things about one another. The media, you pick up any newspaper every day, from first page to the last. It's about one person saying this person is clueless, or the other one is stupid, or the other one is this, or, nobody is telling us about issues. Nobody is dealing with the things that affect this country. We have an economic crisis on our hand. I've not seen an opposition who has taken time to analyze the economy and to have given us prescriptions on how to get out of where we are. Nobody is talking about that. What about this? Jonathan get ready to vacate the government, to vacate Aso Rock in 2015. That's not important to me. Because beyond Jonathan, there's the Nigeria project.
Comrade Femi Onofe is the organizing secretary of the Labour Party in Lagos. Thank you for joining us today. I understand that you have a convention coming up on the 13th of December. Is that repetition, 15? Is it a repetition of what took place earlier?
That's going to be the authentic convention.
But you said your party is not factionalized.
It's not.
So how come you have 2 conventions in a year?
We're not having 2 conventions.
All right, you answered that question some other time. We'll take a break now and we'll be back with more on Gold Digest. Stick around, don't go away.
In February 2015, Nigerians will vote for their next president. So we asked one simple question. What do Nigerians need?
A vibrant economy.
Make business better.
A safer environment for my family.
Better school for my children. Strong leadership. Unity.
This is a beautiful country. We're enterprising, optimistic, and we are also resilient. There are many issues that affect us all, but I believe together we can resolve them and overcome them.
Schools are often inaccessible, ill-equipped, or simply not conducive learning environments. Without education, our children cannot achieve their potential.
No nation can rise above the level of educated people. Education is not a luxury, but it's a must for everybody, for every human being.
My classroom is the Nigeria of tomorrow.
Poverty is the enemy of progress. Nigeria must create opportunity for its people to thrive.
I want to work to provide for my family.
Nigeria has to empower the private sector to continue to play its role as the biggest and largest job creator. Small scale, medium scale, large scale entrepreneurs must be encouraged.
Safety and security are concerns for all Nigerians.
I want my child to grow up in a safe Nigeria.
The primary responsibility of any government, and as enshrined in our constitution, is to protect the lives and property of individuals. It is only with security that the inhabitants of this country will be able to unleash all their potentials in terms of development, in terms of enterprise. So it is essential that government pays attention.
What do Nigerians need?
A leader that understands the importance of education.
Atiku Abubakar is the founder of a chain of schools that provide quality education of a standard comparable to any country in the world.
Someone that understands the economy.
Someone to create an enabling environment for jobs.
Atiku Abubakar understands business. In fact, he's one of the largest private employers in Adamawa and Rivers states.
A leader that can unite the nation, north, south, east, and west.
Atiku Abubakar transcends tribalism and religious sentiment.
A leader with experience.
Atiku Abubakar spent 20 years in the public service, served for 8 years as Vice President of Nigeria, and was Chairman of the National Economic Council. He's qualified to lead our nation to a brighter tomorrow.
This is one of the greatest countries in Africa and in the world. This country is blessed. With the right kind of administration, this country can be transformed. So it is my desire to give back to this country all that is within my power to do. I am Atiku Abubakar. Together we can build a Nigeria for all.
Welcome back. We have a national platform for you here on Core Digest that cuts across the 36 states of Nigeria. So if you want to talk to Nigerians about your political aspiration, your businesses and every other thing, you can do that while you can. The numbers are scrolling on the screen and you can contact our commercial department to seal that deal. Now, on the other side of the show today, we'll be looking at the National Assembly drama and the position of the IGP as regards not recognizing the Right Honorable Aminu Waziri Tambuwal as the Speaker of the House of Reps. The Senate sat as regards this issue a few days ago, and this is exactly what they have to say.
Last week at the National Assembly is a coup attempt by the Nigerian police against the parliament.
The incident of Thursday, the 20th day of November 2014. I say so because I believe that what happened on that day was a major desecration of the sanctity of the presence of the National Assembly.
Mr. President, on that very fateful day, I was at the gate. There were barricades. I was not thoroughly searched. I was allowed in.
Anybody that has not been sworn to sit in this hallowed chamber and in the chamber of House of Reps is a stranger. A police officer that is even here is a stranger.
To correct and ensure that every other security personnel within the premises and precincts of the National Assembly is subject to and under the control of the sergeant at arms.
I once told you, or several times in private, that because you're an experienced person, very elderly, calm, you bend too much. And we, the young ones, are finding it very difficult now to follow you.
Instead of using the word condemn, I want to say it was an unfortunate development. Whatever happened that day was unfortunate.
We were told that we set up a committee. Is the price or the sacrifice, the price we have to pay for democracy, or the sacrifice we have to make for democracy? That is what I believe happened to me, and this
on the arrival of Alhaji Aminu Tambuwal.
I expect you to acknowledge Alhaji Aminu Waziri Tambuwal as the Speaker of this House, pending the interpretation of a judiciary which is settled by the Constitution of this country, for or otherwise.
I will not sit down
and allow an appointee of another arm of government to disrespect the status and the office of the Mr. Speaker of the National Assembly. It's either the IGP is retracting that statement now, or I, as an individual, will have to take my leave, because that means this sitting is illegal.
You know, two matters before the court are not commented upon. I believe it will be sub judice for me to comment on a matter that is before the court. Thank you.
Now, it appears so much like a series movie that has season 1, season 2, and it continues on and on like that. But I'm joined on set now by a legal practitioner as well as a public affairs analyst, G.T. Ogunye. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
It's been a while.
Yes,
good to have you join us. But does it baffle you at all that interpretations of the courts as regards certain matters have added up to a heating up of the polity in recent times?
No, it's not the interpretation of the provisions of the Constitution that has added anything to the heating up of the polity. I refrain from using cliché the way politicians use them. When you have a country like ours, where people die every day, where mayhem is sown everywhere, where innocent children are slaughtered, they are prevented from going to school, where life has become nasty, brutish, and short. What could be more heated than that? So you suppose or imagine that it is the contestation of politicians that amounts to heating up the polity. Her soil is drenched, literally, with the blood of innocents. So what's more heated than that? What heats the polity more than that? So the politicians can continue to engage in violent and virulent contestation for political power. That's what they've always do. They've always done. That's what they are fixated on, even if Nigerians are dying. So it is not their verbal warfare that heats up the polity. So the polity is heated up already. And so I don't sign on to that cliche. But let me say that the constitutional provisions are very clear. And these provisions need not be the basis of this
this was the sin
fight.
inside
If you have a speaker of the National Assembly who is still presiding over the House, who has not been removed by the force of law, he's still the speaker. And so it was wrong for the IGP that the members of that committee called the IGP. They didn't address him by his name. They called him the IGP, Inspector General of Police, right? To have said that he was not going to address the speaker as the speaker. Where are we in this controversy? Yes, Section 68, subsection 1, paragraph G, provides that if you defect in the life of the tenure of a house as a member of a legislative arm, be at the state level or the federal level, sponsored by a political party to that chamber in the life of that legislature, meaning during those 4 years, and your defection is not as a result of a division in the political party that sponsored you, or a merger of your political party with another political party, you shall vacate your seat. That's what it says. And I've explained elsewhere that the language that was used by the framer of the Constitution, that is in the Constitution, is not to bar defection, because that would be infringing on the fundamental right to freedom of association. The Constitution does not say, thou shalt not defect. The Constitution only says, if you defect, this is the consequence. Now, whether what Tambuwal did was defection or not, is not left. And so what should those who feel aggrieved, including the IG, if he says that he wants to enforce the law, what should he do? The IG cannot resort to self-help. The IG will then go to court. If he feels strongly, if he believes that he is the chief interpreter of Nigerian Constitution, he should go to court and seek the order of court and say, compel the speaker to vacate his seat. That's the path.
But would you agree that?
So for any IGP, first, to insult Nigerians by saying that I have interpreted the Constitution. He is not the Attorney General of the Federation, who is the chief law officer, right? That I have interpreted the Constitution, and therefore I'm withdrawing the security detail because this man is no longer the speaker. And to then go to the National Assembly, just a minute.
Okay.
Invade the National Assembly and justify it as he's doing under the pretext that there are some suspected hoodlums and all that. It's very insulting. And the IGP has just come forward as somebody who is part of the political contestation. Is doing the bidding of his appointers.
We'll get to what happened on Thursday, but would you agree that that section of the Constitution is shrouded with some dimension of ambiguity?
There's nothing ambiguous
because
there.
Was it clear, actually, because there are about 2 paragraphs there, or there's a clause to that particular paragraph G. It says that if you decamp, then your seat will be declared vacant. Was it clear as to whether your seat will be declared vacant first before we now decide whether your party was factionalized or it merged at any time with another party?
No. When the Constitution or any law says that there shall be a declaration, it's only a court of law that can declare.
Okay.
Lawyers who are listening to me now will know that if you go to court, there are several reliefs you can seek, including declaratory reliefs. You ask the court to declare the state of the law. Okay? It's only a court that can declare. So when you say the seat shall be declared vacant, if he doesn't go voluntarily, how do you have that seat declared vacant? It's only a court that can do that.
So you're saying here that it's not in the purview or the jurisdiction of the IGP to interpret that section of the law?
No, it's not within his purview, and he knows. The IGP knows this braggadocio and contumacious conduct, this arrogance that flows from the uniform, does not mean that he does not know that he cannot interpret that provision. That is not within his purview. He knows. But you see, it is in the usual way of doing things in our country, where impunity is reigning supreme, that you have this kind of show of shame. And then without, blinking, an IGP faces the camera and justifies what is done.
You made mention of sub judice at the time when he was asked to refer to Aminu Tambuwal as speaker, because he said that the case is in court.
He doesn't know what sub judice. He doesn't know what it means. What was the status quo? The case is in court. As the court pronounced that he's not the speaker, I mean, they just insult people. And that's why, sometimes I just get angry. They just insult people. They think that they are, public officials need to understand that when they are addressing Nigerians, and by implication addressing the world, because the world has become a global village, they ought to be at their most accurate, at their most responsible, at their most sincere. It cannot be right for you to engage in sophistry, obfuscation of facts, outright falsehood, just to bluster your way through. It can't be right. So how do they hold their responsibility? How do they want to discharge this responsibility? Or do they just think that, well, we're just here to do what our whims and caprices dictate? And so to soldier on, we're occupying power and all that. So when we leave, we've occupied power, we've amassed wealth. If they think that that's what public service is all about, it ought to be a honorable thing. Nigerians should look at public officers, and when they say one thing, we should be able to believe them.
You know, the
Even
last thing,
as much as we believe pastors or imams in mosque. You know, we should have implicit confidence that yes, what they say is true. But now, and it's no cynicism. It's based on empirical evidence. When they say something, people just say, they are not telling the truth.
The last thing we heard from
and
the
that's
court
not too good.
Is that status quo be maintained? That also many have said is relative to
it's
interpretation.
Not relative. It's not relative. What is the status quo? It's not relative. Who has removed the speaker? Nobody has removed him. He's not been removed. The Constitution says the seat shall be declared vacant. The seat has not been declared vacant by a judicial authority under Section 6 of the Constitution that can declare that seat vacant. It's not by the pronouncement of the executive arm of government that a seat in the legislature is declared vacant. This is commonsensical enough. And so we spend too much time discussing inanities and frivolities. Naira is crashing. The state of emergency is stalemated. Okay? People are dying. And those are the burning issues of our time. But engaging in this issue of, well, you ought to have vacated, the court is there. You go there. And if you've gone there, that's it. Wait on the court patiently. It may be dilatory, it may be protracted. Wait for the court patiently to make that pronouncement. Okay? To make that pronouncement.
Let's look at, quickly look at the invasion of the National Assembly complex by the police. You heard some senators earlier in that clip that any other person who is not an elected lawmaker is supposed to be a visitor in that complex. Was there any breach of the law?
There was a breach of the law. And unfortunately, the police were the one who breached that law. I'm familiar with the powers of the police under Section 4 of the Police Act, which includes the power to apprehend the commission of crimes. So the police is not expected to wait and sit down like a lame duck and expect crimes to be committed. The police have the powers to prevent crimes being committed. Okay. I'm also familiar with the power of the police under Section 10 of the Criminal Procedure Act. These are general omnibus powers, elaborate powers. Okay? What is the pretext or excuse given by the IGP for invading the National Assembly? He says that they had intel, any intelligence report that hoodlums will invade the National Assembly. And so in order to prevent hoodlums from invading the National Assembly, they had to go there on that day. Now, let's test what he said. Mind you, I've said earlier that people just engage in sophistry and all sort of false statements to rationalize their mistakes, and that this sat for officialdom. Let's test what he said against the facts that we know. And it may not be too good for people to discuss this matter without contemplating or reminding themselves of the geographical layout of the National Assembly. If you visited Abuja before, and who are familiar with what we call the three-arm zone, the zone where we have three arms of government, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. It's like an impregnable fortress where hoodlums cannot enter. It's not from the gate, it's from the road, from the major road, before you even start moving up. Even for lawyers to go to the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court is situated in that area, you'll have to go through several security checks. And after that Supreme Court, you then move further down before you go to the legislative arm. So it's a barricaded area. Okay, and so if you're familiar with this area, you know that the argument of the IGP is not only jejune, it's an irresponsible argument to say that you hear that hoodlums will invade that place. Not that you hear that bombs will be planted there, that hoodlums. And so, on that day, you then got there, barricaded the place to prevent the hoodlums from emerging. Assuming without accepting that the legislators were the hoodlums. Because they were the people they were now preventing to enter. I suppose or imagine that all hoodlums should be equal. Do we have a situation like the animal farm where some hoodlums are more important than the other? Assuming the legislator are the hoodlums, and Yedia is a hoodlum, right? So, was he more important on that day or on that occasion than the speaker, who is also another hoodlum? So, where were the hoodlums who were preventing? When they were tear gassing the legislators, were they the hoodlums that they wanted to prevent from entering the National Assembly?
I see what you're driving to, but have you also considered the nature of protests that greeted Abuja at that particular time, where APC led their members to the headquarters of the police, I believe, and the IGP is also saying that that indeed added to the intelligence report.
What is the value of the intelligence that the IGP is talking about? What is intelligence? The police, the force headquarters in Abuja, is an open place, although the road is partially blocked now because of the bombing incident, and you have policemen all over the place. Now, a political party and a governor who have been at the receiving end of the police for a long time without the executive at the federal level cautioning the police that the governor should not be so treated, decided to vent their anger, as it is allowed by the law and the constitution, to protest in a civil manner, openly, at the force headquarters. So what offense is there? If they've committed an offense, allegedly, if they've committed a breach of the peace, or if the police are saying, as they usually say, you must get a permit, in spite of the fact that the court has said you don't need a police permit to organize a protest. If they still latching on to that, why didn't they arrest them and take them to court? So what link is there between that incident and the invasion of the National Assembly?
There are growing demands now for the dismissal of the Inspector General of Police, of course, Agbakuba, and other senior advocates of Nigeria. The All Progressives Congress also is kicking, and we're able to speak with some of them at the inauguration of Rauf Aregbesola yesterday. But let's pick this call before we bring in that sound. Good morning, Tochukwu. You're on to Call Digest. Please go ahead with the contribution.
Please, I want to say that it is very easy for us to be shouting rule of law, whereby we are paying lip service to it. You see, I say this because the question that needs to be asked here is, what is the law? And who is the law? And I didn't need to say, to my mind, that the police is the symbol of the law. The police has the responsibility to enforce the law. That very law, the House of Assembly members make over there at the chambers, it is the responsibility of the police to enforce it. So if the House of Assembly recognizes the police as a constituted authority, they should be able to obey rules and regulations. But rather what we see here is honorable members who have assumed a godlike position, a superhuman being, that is